Hi, welcome to another dose of virtual vitamin Z. My name is Stephen, and I'm the curator of Humane Education for the Detroit Zoological Society. To get started today, I want to ask you a question, and that question is, what do the following animals have in common? I'm going to share 5 different animals with you, and I want you to think about what these different animals might have in common. And if you think you know the answer, go ahead and add it in the comments section. So the first animal is the camel. And the second animal is the giraffe. So what do the camel and the giraffe have in common? And what do those two have in common with otters? And then what do camels, giraffes, and otters have in common with butterflies? And what do camels, giraffes, otters, and butterflies have in common with spiders? So if you think you know what these 5 animals have in common, go ahead and add it in the comments section. So one answer is that all of these animals live at the Detroit Zoo. We don't specifically have a habitat for spiders, but there definitely are spiders there. But that's not the answer I was looking for. The answer I was actually looking for is biomimicry. Biomimicry is the process in which humans learn from other animals in the environment, and they apply what they've learned to address needs that we have. So bio refers to life, and mimicry refers to copying or mimicking. And so I'm going to go through how each of these animals is an example of that. Camels have adapted to live in very dry environments, and one adaptation they have is that when they breathe out air, they're able to separate the water vapor in that air from its other components, and they can actually conserve that water vapor to conserve water. And people have noticed that and developed a technology in which they will separate water and salt in salt water. Giraffes are another example. As you can see, giraffes have these very long necks, and that means that they have to transport blood from their hearts all the way up to their brains without losing blood pressure. And they've adapted to do that through the qualities of their skin. And people have noticed that, and they have developed similar things that help people who have issues with circulation in their legs and provide compression to maintain that blood flow. Otters swim in the water, and they might swim in very cold or frigid waters, and their fur allows them to trap air between the individual hairs and warm that air up so that they can stay warm, and that's inspired wetsuit technology that humans use. Butterflies have these iridescent wings, and humans have noticed that and developed products based around them that can be used in things like anti-counterfeiting technologies on currency. And then finally, spiders. This is probably one of the most amazing things, but a lot of spiders will build these intricate webs to catch insects, but they don't want to catch birds, and they don't want birds running into their webs. And the really cool thing is that some spiders use a material for their webs that birds can see, even though insects and humans have a harder time seeing them. And this is something that humans have noticed and used to prevent bird collisions into glass panes. So people have made glass that has a similar quality so that birds can see these web-like designs in it, but humans can't, and birds are less likely to run into them. So again, all of these are examples of biomimicry, and today I'm going to be talking about the connection between biomimicry and humane education. As you may know, the DZS is home to the Berman Academy for Humane Education, which is a one-of-a-kind initiative that's allowed us to incorporate the principles and practices of humane education into all of our education programming. And those principles and practices are summed up by the mission of helping people help animals. And one way that we can help animals is by increasing our environmental literacy. And that refers to our knowledge and understanding of our local and global environments and the animals who inhabit it, and also about our relationship with those environments and those animals. And biomimicry is an example of environmental literacy in practice, because as we get to know more about animals and plants and other living beings, we will end up realizing that we have a lot to learn from them. And biomimicry puts some of those lessons we can learn from animals and plants into practice. So today I'm going to be talking about a specific example of biomimicry you can see at the Detroit Zoo. And as I talk about that example, I'm going to use the term photosynthesis, heliotropism, photovoltaic cell, and global positioning system. So to introduce you to this example, I'm going to start by saying that even though I'm talking about the Detroit Zoo and biomimicry, I'm not going to be talking about an animal who we have mimicked. I'm going to be talking about a plant. And that brings me to my first word, photosynthesis. You may know that plants create energy from sunlight. And the way they do that is mostly in their leaves, and it's through a process called photosynthesis, which transforms water and carbon dioxide into sugar and oxygen. And sunlight is a really important component of this process. And so plants want to maximize the amount of surface area in their leaves that are exposed to sun. Problem with that is that plants don't really move. They're kind of rooted in the ground. So how do they maximize their exposure to the sun while not being able to move? Well, we can see evidence of how they might do this in this picture of a field of sunflowers. Take a quick look at this and think about what do you notice here? What do all of these sunflowers have in common other than the fact that they're all sunflowers? Think about the direction that they're facing. So they're all facing the same direction, and that shows us a property that sunflowers have. When they're young, sunflowers, as they grow, will actually move from one side to the other to maximize their exposure to the sun. Now, they stop doing this once they fully mature, but will often end up facing the same direction as a result of this process. And the DZS has used this in order to meet a need that we have as part of our sustainability mission to responsibly use resources. And to share more about that, I have a short video for you. The Smart Flower is an all-in-one ground-mounted solar panel system, and it's blooming in the garden just east of the Wildlife Carousel. Based on the concept of how a sunflower follows the sun, the system features 12 solar petals that follow the sun across the sky throughout the day via a GPS-based tracker. This high-tech addition is another step on our green journey to create a more sustainable future by using innovative practices that minimize our ecological footprint. Join us on our green journey and conserve energy at home. Turn off the lights when you leave the room and unplug appliances when you're not using them. You can also consider adding solar panel technology to your home. Find out more ways to use less energy by clicking the link to the DZS blog below. So as you can see from this still image, this smart flower has what are called photovoltaic cells on its surface. And these will take the energy from the sunlight and transform it into electricity. And it's not through photosynthesis, but it is inspired by photosynthesis in plant leaves. And as the video showed, this will use a global positioning system to track the sun over the course of the day to make sure that those photovoltaic cells are always exposed to the sun. So it's a really cool example of how we have been able to meet a need, again, the need to responsibly use resources like energy by learning from nature, and in this case, from sunflowers in particular. To learn more about the Detroit Zoological Society sustainability mission, you can check out our green print on our website by following this link below. What I want to do now, though, is I want to introduce you to an activity that you can do that'll give you a chance to start joining us in our green journey. And that activity is that we're going to work together to create an upcycled solar cooker. And by doing this activity, we're going to strengthen our fine motor skills. We're going to be doing some different work with our hands. And we're also going to strengthen our critical thinking skills by making predictions and observations. And we're also going to be helping animals in the environment, in part because we're going to be upcycling materials, but also because we're going to be finding an alternative way to use the sun's energy to meet our needs. The supplies we'll need are a cardboard box. You can even use a pizza box if you have an old pizza box. Some scissors, some aluminum foil, and you might be able to reuse that aluminum foil, and then some tape. I'm going to show you the steps briefly, and then I'll show you pictures to make them a little bit clearer. But we're going to remove the top of the cardboard box, and then cut the box's front and bottom edges, tape some foil onto one side of it, reassemble it, prop up the front flap, and then adjust the side and front flaps to direct sunlight. That'll make more sense once I show you some pictures. So to get started, we're going to need a cardboard box. Again, I'm using an old shipping box, but you could use a pizza box too, or a shoe box. Then I've got scissors, some foil, and some tape. First thing you're going to do is you're going to cut the top off of the box so that the box has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides instead of 6. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to cut the box's front and bottom seams so that you create this T shape. And I'll go back to show you which seams those are. You're going to cut this, and then down at the bottom, those two. And if you accidentally cut the wrong one, you can always tape it back up. It's not a problem. But you'll have this T-shaped box now. And then we're going to cut pieces of aluminum foil and tape them on to one side. And then we're going to reassemble this box. And the side flaps will rest as they are. The front flap will need to use a stick to support it. And so you can actually use one of those extra pieces of cardboard you cut off to make a stick, and that'll help you keep that front flap up. And then we can take this outside and we can adjust it so that we are maximizing the amount of sunlight that is being reflected to this center area. And this is where the critical thinking comes in. We can make some predictions about what will cook, what arrangements will be most effective, and take observations to see how accurate those are. You can also try different designs to see if they might, maybe you try using a larger box or a smaller box, or maybe you try adjusting these to see what's most effective. So this is a really cool way to do all that. I will say that regardless of how you set this up, it'll be a very slow cooking process, and we shouldn't be cooking things from scratch with it because we want to make sure that our food cooks through all the way. But in this case, I used it to heat up a sandwich I had so I could have a warm sandwich instead of a cold one. And this leads me to our action for this lesson. And that action is the Biomimicry Challenge. And by taking this action, we're going to strengthen our creativity and critical thinking skills. We're also going to help animals and the environment. And the only supplies we'll need are a field notebook and a pencil or a pen. And what we're going to do is I'm going to encourage you to go outside and observe your local environment. And in particular, observe plants and animals and reflect on how they might address the challenges they face, just like flowers and plants have addressed the challenge of needing to be exposed to the sun, but not being able to move. And then think about how we can learn from those animals and plants to address a challenge that we face. For example, we learned from sunflowers to create that smart flower. Or we can learn from flowers to create a solar cooker. And then implement your idea. And this is a pretty general process, but for more details and support, you can go to this website here, and you'll be directed to the Biomimicry Institute, which is an organization that's all about teaching people about biomimicry and how we can use the knowledge we gain from plants and animals to address our needs and challenges. They even have a Biomimicry Youth Design Challenge. So if you go through with your biomimicry challenge and create something really cool, you can submit it to this challenge. So thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope that you've learned a little bit more about environmental literacy and biomimicry and how those connect with the humane education work that we're doing at the Detroit Zoological Society. If you're interested in learning more, I would encourage you to check out our other virtual vitamin Z resources. And to do that, you can go to our website, detroitzoo.org, and click on the link for educational lessons. So thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great day and stay safe. Bye.